This is Dave Sugarbaker, and today is May 10th, 2026. It's Mother's Day, and I have a reading here that we're going to talk about Do Not Be Afraid. This is from Mark, 4th chapter, 35 to 41. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with them. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on a cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who is this, then, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" I saw a meme on Facebook that said the phrase, "do not be afraid," appears in the Bible 365 times, often enough so that we can have a daily reminder that we don't have to be afraid. Well, I don't believe everything I see online, and so I did my own word search of various translations of the Bible, and I got 29 occurrences of "do not be afraid." Then I thought to broaden the search to "be not afraid." "Do not be afraid" was the original search. Then I also searched on "be not afraid" and "fear not," ready to find out that these are still the same message, even though they're different words. And the number was somewhat better, but it was nowhere near 365. There is no end to statements about fear the Lord, and that's a topic for another day. I added phrases like "don't fear" and "do not fear," and words like "anxious" and "worry." Finally, I got to 149 instances in which the Bible tells us not to be anxious or afraid. Our news weekly is typically awful. Does Iran have enough stuff to make atomic bombs? Do not be afraid. There's going to be a huge tsunami one of these days soon on the West Coast when one or another of the faults lets loose. Let not your hearts be troubled. Statistics say there are 132 deaths by firearms daily in the United States. Fear not. Some talking head on television speculates that there may be as many as 1 million alienated, isolated, mentally unstable young males in our country, any of whom could decide that violence is the warped answer to their perception of what's wrong with the world. Be strong of heart. Have you ever encountered somebody who's captured by fear at that moment? He or she is obviously suffering. They're anxious, they're afraid. And one of the least helpful things that you can do for them is to tell them, "Don't be afraid." That fearful person's going to look at you and think that you definitely are not aware of the gravity of the situation. Even worse, you could say something like, "Don't be silly." And that fear-filled person might well respond, "There's absolutely nothing silly about this. This is serious." Or you could say, "You're afraid because you don't have enough faith." None of this is going to reduce anybody else's fear. In fact, it can pour gasoline on the fire. Jesus had been preaching to large crowds, and the demands were exhausting. He's on the western shore of the Sea or Lake of Galilee. Preaching to a large crowd is easier if the speaker is in a boat offshore slightly, and the crowd is on the shore listening. There are two advantages. First of all, the crowd can't push in on him. And secondly, sound carries really well over water. It's kind of a natural amplification strategy. When Jesus had finished teaching, he suggested they go on over to the other side of the lake. The Sea of Galilee is about 13 miles long from north to south and about 8 miles wide east to west. It's the largest freshwater lake in the area. The lake that I have the most experience on is Seneca Lake. That's the longest of the Finger Lakes in upstate New York. Seneca Lake is 1 mile wide and 30 miles long. It's extremely deep and cold. And the fishing, excuse me, the fishing in Seneca Lake is just fantastic. The lake trout all go up Catherine Creek at the headwaters of the lake to spawn in early spring. I lived on Catherine Creek. I wasn't aware of how popular the little stream was with fishermen until the first day of fishing season. And the fishermen were standing shoulder to shoulder fishing this stream. One spring day, I watched 3 neighborhood boys in Catherine Creek beside my house. And one of the boys was in the water with his hands down under the water, waiting for one of the big lake trout to come along. The boy's accomplices were waiting on the bank. And at the right moment, the boy in the stream would grab a fish and throw it up on the bank. And the others would pounce on it and try to keep it from flopping back into the stream. No bait, no tackle, no license, but I watched them carry home a 10-plus pound lake trout for dinner. Wow. I learned to sail on Seneca Lake. The lake runs north and south with hills on both sides. When we were out on the lake, it was hard to see storms coming, and they came up really fast, roaring down the lake from the north. From sedate sailing, in sometimes a couple minutes, there would be 3-foot waves and a lot of wind. One of my parishioners was sailing on the lake with a couple of young kids when he was caught by a storm. After one of the first gusts, as he tried to get the sails down, he fell on the boom and broke it. He was lucky not to be thrown overboard. All they could do was to hang on until the storm passed and then paddle to the shore. I can identify with the disciples sailing across the Sea of Galilee. They were in real trouble. The boat was taking on water, but Jesus was peacefully asleep in the stern of the boat. And the disciples wake Jesus. "Rabbi, aren't you concerned that we are all just about to die?" Mark says Jesus rebuked the wind and told the water to calm down. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who is this then, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Jesus asks, "Why are you afraid? Have you no faith?" The implication is that if the disciples had faith, they wouldn't be afraid. And that's a pretty strong statement. Now, I'm grateful for all of the work that I've done in biblical studies. Scholars say that the writer of the book of Mark, the earliest of the Gospels, firmly believed that no one could really understand who Jesus was until the whole story was told. Until Jesus was resurrected, not even the disciples could have really understood who Jesus was. It's called Mark's messianic secret. And throughout the Gospel of Mark, the spirit world knows that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. But human beings have not got a clue. The evidence is all there, they just don't see it. But the reader does. We know how the story ends. But the participants in the story, in the book of Mark, don't know the ending yet. That's how the writer of Mark structures his gospel. So it's no surprise when, after Jesus calms the sea and the wind, the disciples are still scratching their heads, trying to figure out who Jesus is. If I had been in the boat, I would have been terrified. And at the same time, I see myself as having faith. On another occasion, when Jesus is asked if he will heal a father's possessed son, Jesus tells the man he must have faith. And the man, in frustration, blurts out, "I believe, help my unbelief." That's us. Do we believe? Which minute? There are moments we believe and moments when we're afraid. And we can be, in turns, both faithful and scared out of our wits. I had a rule that I would share with people I counseled in Berkeley. And the rule was, feelings come first. The rational partner at the moment could have all kinds of logical thoughts about the situation, but feelings come first. Only after the anger or the fear is fully heard will logic be invited into the conversation. Love and listen first. Be rational later. No matter how many times the Bible tells us not to be afraid, there will be moments of fear. And I think the key is that we don't have to live perpetually in fear. We don't have to let fear sit in the driver's seat, making decisions about our life. We rely on our understanding that we are children of a great love. Now, in the Bible, the only perfect love is God, right? Okay, the Bible says perfect love, or God, drives out fear. Perfect love drives out fear. Now, I hope that was worthwhile to you. Thank you for your time to listen to this particular set of thoughts. And if you find it valuable, I hope you'll pass it along. But in any case, thank you for your attention, for your time, and stay safe, and God bless you.